Miyuyam. My name is Cathleen Chilcote Wallace. I live in San Diego, California, and I am Luiseño. San Diego County is home to 4 Native American groups: the Luiseño, the Kumeyaay, the Cupeño, and the Cahuilla people. We have lived here on this land since the beginning of time. Now, one tradition that we all share is the tradition of storytelling. Now, it is said that long before man walked on earth, the animals lived here and they could talk. And so many of our stories are of the animal people. And those are some of my favorite stories, and a few that I'm going to share with you today. I'd like to share Coyote and Grasshopper. Long, long ago, in the earliest of days, when the earth was young and the animals could talk, Grasshopper was sitting high on the branch of a willow tree. She was sitting there in the bright morning sun. Her little body felt all cozy and warm as the sun hit her body with its warmth. Meanwhile, down on the trail, Coyote was walking along. Now, usually, Coyote hunts at night and sleeps during the day, but the night before, the hunting had not been good, and Coyote was still hungry, and he was out looking for something more to eat. As he walked along the trail, he glanced up at the willow tree, and he saw Grasshopper sunning herself on that branch of the willow tree. And he thought to himself, "Aha! That will be something tasty to eat, and I won't even have to work for it. I'll just hide over here behind this lemonade berry bush and wait. And as soon as Grasshopper hops down from the willow tree, then I can eat her." So Coyote went over and he crouched down behind the lemonade berry bush and he waited. Well, you may not know this, but grasshoppers are very clever. And this grasshopper saw Coyote hiding behind that lemonade berry bush, and she very carefully took off a piece of her grasshopper skin that she had already been shedding, and she wrapped it around a little rock, a pebble. And then she put that skin-covered rock right on the spot of the branch of the willow tree where she had been sunning herself. Then she hopped up higher into the tree and hid behind the leaves. Well, meanwhile, remember where Coyote was hiding. He was hiding behind the lemonade berry bush, and as he crouched down there, he became more and more hungry. His stomach growled louder and louder until finally he said, "I'm sick and tired of waiting for Grasshopper to hop down from the willow tree. I'm just going to climb up that tree and eat her there." So Coyote went over and he climbed up the willow tree. He stretched across the branch and he bit down on that skin-covered rock. And as soon as he did that, his teeth shattered and broke. And even today, if you ever look inside a coyote's mouth, and I really hope you never do, you will see that his teeth are still jagged and crooked from that time long ago when he was so greedy and tried to eat little Grasshopper. Hamutap, the end. I would like to share Mountain Lion and Cricket, an old California story. It was long, long ago in the earliest of days when the earth was young and the animals could talk, and Cricket had built herself a nice, cozy home. She had made it from fine grass and mud. It was nice and round and warm and safe. She had built it a good distance from the trail, and it sat in the shade of an old rotten log. Now one day, Mountain Lion came walking down the trail, and his nose told him that a rabbit had recently passed by. And so, following the scent of the rabbit, Mountain Lion stepped off the trail and began walking toward that old rotten log. He was just about to take another step when he heard a little voice call out, "Ho, friend lion! Stop where you are and step away. One more step and your paw will crush my home." Mountain Lion looked around to see who had spoken to him, and when he saw that it was teeny tiny Cricket, he began to laugh. And his laugh grew into a roar. And the roar was so big that the ground began to shake and the trees began to sway. "You dare to tell me where I may walk?" said Mountain Lion. "Why, I am Mountain Lion, and the forest is mine. I am strong and swift and smart. How dare you speak to me that way?" "Well," said Little Cricket, "you may rule the forest, but I am in charge of my own home and the land that it sits on. So step aside. I do not wish to have my home crushed." Mountain Lion could not believe how daring Little Cricket was. No one had ever talked back to him like that. "Why, how dare you speak to me that way?" said Mountain Lion. "Why, I could crush you and your home with one paw if I so desire." "Oh, be careful, friend Lion," said Little Cricket. "I have a cousin who's half as big as I am, and he is a great fighter. He fought against the grizzly bear and won." "Ha, ha, ha, ha," said Mountain Lion. "You bring your cousin right here tomorrow, and we will fight, and then I will crush you and your home and your cousin with just one paw." "Ha, ha, 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 ha." Mountain Lion turned and walked away. The next day at noon, when the sun was high in the sky, Mountain Lion came walking down the trail. He stepped aside by the old rotten log, and he stood and he looked around. "Come out! Come out! It is I, Mountain Lion! Come out, little cousin! Come out and fight!" Nobody answered. Come out and be crushed," said Mountain Lion. Suddenly, there came a buzzing in Mountain Lion's ear, followed by a sharp, stabbing sting. "Ow! Ow!" said Mountain Lion, and he began to hold on to his head and shake it back and forth. "Ow! Ow!" he cried out again, and then he began running back and forth. He shook his head, but Mosquito, Cricket's cousin, just kept singing a louder song and kept on stinging. I'm telling you, Mountain Lion ran up and down, back and forth, until finally he was so tired out that he threw himself down on the ground. And that's when Little Cricket finally spoke. "And now, friend Lion, will you leave me and my house alone?" "Yes, yes," cried Mountain Lion. "Only please, please tell your cousin to get out of my ear, please." And so Little Cricket motioned for Cousin Mosquito to fly out of Mountain Lion's ear. And together they sat on that old rotten log and they watched as Mountain Lion ran down the trail as fast as he could. And I've been told that he never, ever returned to that part of the forest ever again. Hamutop, the end. Wolf, Raccoon, and How the Redbird Got Her Color is an old Cherokee story that's a favorite of mine. Long, long ago, in the earliest of days, when the earth was young and the animals could talk, Raccoon was out for a walk in the village. She passed by Wolf and stopped to tease him just a little. "Why, Wolf, you lazy animal, I haven't seen you do a bit of work around this village today," said Raccoon. Oh, the wolf was insulted, and he got mad, and he began to chase the little raccoon around the village. Now, the wolf was fast, but the raccoon was faster. She ran through the village, then down the path through the trees, all the way down to the riverbank. Now, on the edge of the riverbank, there was a tall pine tree, and the little raccoon quickly climbed up the pine tree and stretched out on a branch that was overhanging the river. That means right below the branch, the river was running. Now, meanwhile, the wolf came running through the trees. He got up to the edge of the river, and he looked to the left. No raccoon. He looked to the right. No raccoon. And then he looked straight ahead into the river, and he saw that raccoon. But you and I both know what he really saw was only the reflection of the little raccoon. But the wolf was fooled, and so he stepped back and took a running start and dove into the river. Oh my goodness, that wolf splashed and he thrashed and he dove and he tried with all of his might to grab hold of that little raccoon, but he simply could not. Finally, when he was all tired out and near to drowning, he pulled himself up out of the river and laid down on the riverbank to let his fur dry in the warm sun. He was so tired that before long he fell fast asleep. As soon as he was asleep, that tricky raccoon climbed down from the pine tree, and in her paws she had a big, sticky, gooey glob of pine sap. She tiptoed over to where the wolf was sleeping, and she picked up a handful of that gooey pine sap, and she smeared it over his eyelids, gluing them shut. And then, ever so quietly, she ran away home. After a while, the wolf woke up, and you can imagine how shocked he was when he could not open his eyes. Oh, that wolf was screaming and yelling and crying. Meanwhile, a short distance away, little brown bird was looking for something to eat. She was looking for little seeds to eat, and she heard Wolf's cries for help. And so she hopped over to where Wolf was laying on the riverbank, and she said, "Why, Wolf, it is I, little brown bird. Whatever's happened to you?" And the wolf told the little brown bird about the teasing and the chasing and the jumping into the river. And he said, "I think that raccoon did one final trick on me. I think she smeared pine sap on my eyelids and glued them shut. If you help me get the dried pine sap off my eyelids, I will take you up into the hills where the red paint runs through the mountains, and we will paint you a beautiful, beautiful red color." Well, the little brown bird liked that idea, and so ever so carefully with her little beak, she pecked away very gently at the wolf's eyelids until all of the pine sap was gone and he was able to open his eyes once again. And the wolf kept his word. He took the little brown bird up into the hills where the red paint ran through the rocks, and they painted up the little brown bird a beautiful red color. And today, we no longer know her as the little brown bird, but today she is the beautiful red bird. Hamutap, the end. Next, I would like to share another favorite story. It comes to us from the Hopi people, and it's called Water Turtle and Coyote. It was long ago, in the earliest of days, when the earth was young and the animals could talk, when Water Turtle crawled out of the pond that was her home, and she began to walk along, nibbling on fine grass and leaves. And she walked and she nibbled and she nibbled and she walked until she was a great distance from the pond that was her home. Now the sun had moved up high into the sky, and it was a hot day. Water Turtle had walked a great distance, and she was very tired. All she could think of was getting back to the pond that was her home. She turned around and she began to walk, but she was so tired that she couldn't take another step. And so she crawled into a hole, and that's where she began to cry and cry and cry. Well, meanwhile, a short distance away, Coyote was walking along, and he heard Water Turtle's cries, and he stopped, and his ears perked up, and he said, "Someone is singing a beautiful song. I want to learn that song." And so Coyote followed the sound of Water Turtle's cries until he found her right in that hole. And he said, "Water Turtle, I like that turtle song you're singing. I want you to teach me that song, and as soon as I've learned it, I'm going to build a fire over here, throw you in, and when your shell burns away, I will eat you." Well, Water Turtle stopped crying right away, and she looked at Coyote, and she said, "Why, Coyote, don't you know that a turtle shell is fireproof? And not even the hottest fire can hurt a turtle shell." "Huh," said Coyote, and he thought a little bit more. I know, I'll turn you upside down in the hot sun. And as soon as you get tired, your shell will open, and then I will eat you." "Oh, Coyote," said Water Turtle, "don't you know that a turtle never gets tired, and my shell will only open when I want it to?" "Ugh," said Coyote, and he thought a little bit more. I know. I'll take you to the cliff over there, and I'll throw you off the cliff, and as soon as you hit the sharp rocks below, your shell will crack open, and then I will eat you." "Oh, Coyote," said Water Turtle, "don't you know that a turtle's shell is unbreakable, and not even the sharpest rocks could put a crack in my shell?" said Coyote, and he thought a little bit more. I know. I'll take you to the pond, and I'll throw you into the pond, and as soon as you're in the water, your shell will melt, and then I will eat you." "Coyote," said Water Turtle, please, whatever you do, do not take me to the pond. I'm begging you. Please, do not take me to the pond, for that will be the end of me." "Aha," said Coyote, "you've given yourself away." And so Coyote picked up Water Turtle in his mouth, and he began trotting all the way to the pond, thinking about how delicious Water Turtle was going to taste. When he got to the edge of the pond, he threw back his head and he tossed Water Turtle into the air, where she flipped and flopped and landed right in the middle of the pond. Water Turtle swam down, came back up, stuck her little turtle head up above the water, and raised up her little turtle paw, and she waved at Coyote, who was standing on the edge of the pond, and called out, "Thank you, Coyote. Thank you for bringing me home." Then she dove down and swam away. And that is the day that Water Turtle outsmarted Coyote. Hamutop, the end. Rattlesnake and North Star, a story from Southern California. Long ago, in the earliest of days, when the earth was young and the animals could talk, Rattlesnake was often teased and bothered by everyone else because, you see, he was the only one with no arms or legs. And North Star lived on Earth then, and he was the meanest of all. Oh my goodness, he called Rattlesnake horrible, awful, hurtful names. And when the other animal people in the village saw what North Star was doing, they thought, well, if North Star can tease Rattlesnake, we will too. And so everybody teased Rattlesnake. Sometimes North Star was so mean, he'd grab Rattlesnake by the tail and pull him around on the ground, or he would get big handfuls of dirt and throw it on Rattlesnake. Well, as you can imagine, Rattlesnake got sick and tired of being treated that way. And so he went to speak to Earth Mother to tell her of his problems. She listened to his story and she thought about it and she said, well, you do have the right to protect yourself. And so she gave him the gift of 2 small pointed sticks. And she gave him the gift of poison. And she told him, whenever you bite someone, there will be 3 hot days in a row, making the poison even stronger. Rattlesnake thanked her for the gifts and returned to the village, and everything was fine for the rest of that day. But the next day, North Star was meaner than he had ever been before. Oh my goodness, he called Rattlesnake horrible, awful, hurtful names. And Rattlesnake warned him. But North Star just laughed. You skinny, silly little snake, what could you possibly do to hurt me? So, using his new fangs, Rattlesnake bit off one of North Star's fingers. Even today, it is said that when there are 3 hot days in a row, Rattlesnake has bitten someone, and Earth Mother is making the poison even stronger. And if you doubt any of this, just look up into the sky on the next clear night. Find North Star. That's where he now lives. And if you look very carefully, you will see that there's a cluster of stars that form his hand, but one finger is still missing, bitten off long ago by Rattlesnake. Hamutop, the end.